All right, guys. So I'm going to be going over a case study on a deal that I locked up creatively. And I'm going to go ahead and break down the exit strategy that's going to make the most sense on this, which is a wraparound. I'm not going to be the performer. I'm not going to be the end buyer. I'm going to sign it over. I have a couple of projects in place right now that I just don't have the manpower or will to do it. Otherwise, I would definitely do this shit because there's a 2.9% interest rate on this property and it's turn fucking key. A little bit of equity and a large equity spread on the wrap part. So this is what I've identified is ARV on this property is roughly 270, 280. Homeowner has it listed. We're not working with the agent anymore, but he had it listed for 270 for some time. The pain was he had some surgery on his shoulders. So guys, we're on the whiteboard. So if you guys are not in the whiteboard, I see there's more people in here. There's only 5 people following the whiteboard. Jump into the whiteboard, zoom out from 100 on the whatever visibility of the screen and zoom out down to 20. So the ARV on this property is 270, 280. Good condition property in Houston, Texas. The rates are crazy. It's hard for people to afford with 9-10% out there plus interest rates for houses. Couldn't get it sold. This homeowner literally ran out of money, and he even called me in distress and said, "I'm so upset, and not at you. I can't believe I'm so fucking broke and I have all these bills to pay." And I felt bad. And so we found out that he has a mortgage balance of roughly $224,000. Or no, sorry, 214. Let me go ahead and erase that. $214,000. And he has a solar panel loan of roughly $24,000. So altogether, he has roughly $238,000 worth of loans. And together, his payment on this mortgage is $1,750, and his solar panel was $145. So altogether, he's paying roughly roughly $1,900. That's roughly what he's paying for PITI with a solar panel, and then he pays $417 for HOA, but that's annually, so that's just a one-time payment. And so I've now identified that this is the ARV, and now I've identified that market rent is roughly $1,900 to $2,000. Homeowners are open to this. He's running out of money. I've identified that his payment is right at market rent, which I verbally told him. So I asked, how much money is he looking down for, right? We're going over some terms, and I asked him up front to see what he was looking for. To 15 to 20. He was in line. He was in line. His house was good. His house is in good condition, which I showed you guys earlier. It breaks even, but it's in good condition with a crazy rate, with like a 2.9% interest rate. Crazy rate right here. When I see these, I get attracted because I already know if I can get this is a sweet fucking deal. Somebody's gonna buy the rate. So he says, I want 15 to 20 grand. And so I tell him, hey, you're basically in line, because when we buy properties in today's market, closer to market price, like yours. We want it to be closer to market conditions, just like yours. And we're typically allocated $5, $10, maybe $15,000. We might be able to get you that 15,000. To say we can get you that 20 might be a stretch. It was okay. I use just my own verbiage in there, company policy, whatever you want to say, right? We typically get allocated this amount of money on these type of transactions. However you want to say it, right? I say it that way, structure it. So we're able to give them $15,000, right? So we add $15,000 to what's going to be our purchase price. That's for down payment. And that's for liens and loans. So altogether, this is what our price is going to be. It's going to be $253, which is exactly what it's locked up for. $253,000. Let's go ahead and everybody scroll down a little bit. So we're now into a fresh area on the whiteboard. Let me know if everybody scroll down. It's all fresh. So this property is locked up. Everybody's down. Okay, so this property is locked up right here at $253,000. $15,000 down. And what's the 2.9% rate at, let's just say $1,900. That's basically this deal right here. It's $253, $15,000 down is the down payment. So the finance amount is less, right? It's going to be like $238 or some shit. This is where we're at right here. $253, $15,000 down, 2.9%. How do we wrap it? Some people are like, I've heard the words and broken it down, but how do I visualize how this motherfucker works, right? How do I change this deal? How do I turn this deal that isn't going to cash flow to anybody? How do I turn it to a cash flowing cow so then we can wholesale this and make some money, or we can buy it and hold it for ourselves? Does it make sense? Market rent is 1900. It's breaking even. It's breaking even. Where are we at? Where are we at? Right? So I believe so I'm going to show you right now exactly how this works real quick. I'm going to show you that when you're the landlord, if you buy a property, you're responsible to principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance when you're landlord, when you buy the property. Later, Caden, it's all good. This is recorded. So you're responsible to all of those. When you're the landlord, you're responsible to the taxes and insurance. When you have the property, if you're the end buyer and you want to wrap it, you're going to be selling it the way you bought it on terms, but you bought it on terms that made sense for you to capitalize on, and then you resell them on terms to somebody, but you just capitalized on them. So there's no way that they can turn into an investment because you're hitting 2 or 3% over prime rates. You're hitting higher monthly payments, and you can typically upcharge your property 10% of the market value. So if it's worth 260, 270, you can charge 10% on top of that and get it sold close to 300,000 or 300. Why does that make sense, Carlos? Why the fuck would somebody want to buy a $300,000 house when it's worth 270, 2.9% rate? Why the fuck would somebody want to pay over the market rate? If the market rate is 8% or 8.5, why would somebody want to pay 9.5%, 10%? Well, I don't know, man. Maybe they have a family that they have a growing family and want to get this house, couldn't get approved, right? I used to be in the car industry all the time. I used to be in the car industry, and all the time, I'm talking about all the fucking time, we had a lot of people. A lot of them happen to be Hispanics. A lot of them happen to be immigrants. They would come in and they would do everything they can to get approved, but they didn't have work. They were laborers. They got paid cash. A lot of these things didn't have good credit. Have already 3 fucking kids in a 5-seater, and you see the wife was pregnant and needs a 4-seater. They need that shit. And so we're doing everything we can to get them approved. Obviously, we're going to make a shitload of money. In the car industry, we were a little bit different. At the time, my thinking process wasn't always about helping people. But just visualizing this, these people who were in distress, who couldn't get approved, but they made money to obviously pay these higher prices because they would get hit with 23, 24, 25, 28% when rates were still 2, 3% or 0% through the actual through the factory, right? Why the hell would somebody pay these 26%, these 28%? Why the fuck would somebody pay, you know, on a a Chevy Malibu that will cost you $400? Why would somebody willing to pay $956? Well, I just told you they had 3 kids and they needed a fourth. They had a fourth child coming. They needed a 3-row seat, and they actually couldn't afford the payment, though it was a stretch for them. They couldn't afford it. They bought that shit, homie, because they needed it, homie. You ever been in that fucking position? Because obviously, if you never fucking needed something like that and you were in good standing with good money, you'd get the fucking rate you want, the house you want, the car you want, if you could do that, right? That's why, because that's what people are seeing. Well, yeah, put your stuff in a position where you can get what you want. You wouldn't be looking at stupid rates, overpaying prices. Have you been in a position where you're in the need position? Have you been in that position where you needed something and you're willing to overpay? I've been there multiple fucking times. Even in getting in this industry, it got a little bit more tough. I've been in that position multiple times. So imagine this. Why can't people get approved? Maybe somewhere down the road, they fucked up their credit. Maybe they're immigrants and haven't built their credit. Maybe they just haven't built their credit. Rates are bad right now as well. Maybe it was somebody who has good credit, is a business owner, just doesn't have consistency over the last 2 years to get approved, but they make fuckloads of money, 30, 40, 50 grand. You can see it on paper. What if you were a doctor that just moved a year ago and you only have 1 year of employment at that new place? You don't have 2 years to get approved, don't you? What if? So what if the answer is I can afford the payment, I can afford the price, give me the fucking house I need for my family and I don't want to, and then at the same time, I don't know, Carlos, if I should do this deal because it's 30 minutes away from downtown. It's 30 minutes away. It's in the suburb market, 45 minutes away. Yeah, you're right. Harder to rent those properties out. Why would somebody want to drive 30, 45 minutes away from where they work in town? Have you ever thought about somebody who really wanted to buy their own house for their family and was willing to drive out of town 30, 40 minutes to call a place their own because they finally can? And you know what you do when you help people out? You help people out. You know that, right? Because you still got to originate the loan for them. It goes through a registered loan originator because you're still originating a mortgage for them. You're building, they're going to help build their fucking credit so they can refinance and get good rates. You're helping them out, even though you're also capitalizing a little bit as an investor. So one, you can upcharge the price just a little bit, right? Up to 10%. There's always a buyer out there. How long does it take to find a wrap buyer? A wrap buyer is a retail buyer that would buy any house, just a family. But now the ones that can't get approved, they're the ones that we'd look at this shit. Because ones that can get approved, they're going to find the house they want, right? So this $300,000, this how, let's say you get a lot of people that are interested, right? Well, let's ask for a down payment. Let's go with the bare minimum. We want to take a minimum of 10% because we still want to have people's skin in the game. And yes, we protect ourselves. So 10%. That's what we're going to be charging people. We're marketing like this, 10%. That's $30,000 down payment. Do people really have $30,000 down? Yeah, we call it mattress money. There are a lot of people that save money and have this type of money sitting down. A lot of people. A lot of people have money sitting in the bank, sitting in 401k, sitting in stocks. There's a lot of people that have the money. So what happens if somebody's willing to do this? $300,000 at $30,000 down. That means they finance $270,000. What's their payment going to be, Carlos, if they're paying 10% on $270,000? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how high the payment's going to be. I'm going to show you, is that possible? Yeah. How do I know? Because I still know investors in the area that are charging 12% on similar houses like this. There's a buyer for everything, right? We're going to pay attention to this real quick. Principal and interest payment. I'm not going to give you the real numbers just because I don't feel like looking at everything, but I'm going to go over what I believe it was. It was like $950 or some shit. Was his payment just to his principal and interest. Taxes and insurance, let's just say is the difference. Let's just say it's $950 or whatever. Taxes and insurance and solar panel. So this is what we're responsible to when we're selling the wrap. We're going to be a note holder. You're only responsible to principal and interest payment, no longer than $1,900. When you're the owner and you're a landlord, you're responsible to the full payment, taxes, insurance, and the solar panel lien. So pay attention to this. So now they're going to finance $270,000 at 10%. What's their principal and interest payment? Oh, I'll show you. Let me go ahead and that up right now on my calculator. Take an amortization calculator. We just plug in $270,000 over 30 years at 10%. And Carlos, hey, are you for sure going to get 30? I don't know. We might get $50,000 down, or we might only get 15, and we bet the right person. Just really depends. I've had a house where I bought it for 60 grand, no, $50,000, $55,000, listed it for $90,000, and it's as is condition. Didn't do one thing to it. After I think $9,000 or $10,000 down, and we ended up getting 50 grand down. This was like 4 months ago. So 270 over 30 years at 10%. What's the payment, Carlos? It is $23.69. What's the taxes and insurance going to be? Well, let's find that out really quick. We use websites. We use this property tax calculator and this home insurance calculator website that we have that we use. There it is, a $300,000 value house in Houston, Texas. They charge 2.13% in Harris County, which is fucking rape. So you take a $300,000 purchase price, all right, and then you multiply that by 2.13, and you get $6,390 yearly tax. Divide that by 12 months. That's $532. We'll write this down. It's $532. $532.50. What's the insurance on this puppy? This wraparound strategy blew my fucking mind. I hope it blows your guys' mind right now. It's a fucking awesome strategy. It's an advanced strategy. And it just, hopefully it does wonders for you guys and open your guys' eyes to some other things. All right, what's my zip code on this album? Sunday, I am free. So your guy, Mayor Brandon, just texted me right now, said Sunday he's free, so I can call him tomorrow.
Nice.
We work every day, homie, until we ballin'. I'll sleep when I'm balling, homie. I'm just grabbing the address real quick, the zip code. All right.
What was the calculation again to find you found the taxes percentage, and then how did you get that?
You guys want me to just, I could just submit the links. They're just like Zillow links. It's one to get like property taxes, like the property tax calculator per county in whatever state, and the same thing for home insurance. So it's really easy, so you can calculate it yourself. Because what happens is some people think that when you buy a house, that the PITI that they have, the $1,900 is going to stay the same. No, not true. It's not going to stay the same because the taxes and insurance go off of the purchase price. You know, so it's like the homeowner you're trying to buy the house from, they bought it at $200 and they're selling it to you for $250. You're paying $50,000 more in taxes and insurance than they are. So there's going to be an increase on your end. I'll submit right now in the side chat the links that I use. Yeah. But I'm just trying to get this last piece over there. 77067. 77067. Okay. So insurance is fucking expensive there too. $4,365. Divide that by 12. That's $363.75. Plus $532.50. Okay. So taxes and insurance on this property. I'm sorry for the scribbly bullshit. I'm using my finger. $896. Altogether, $23.69. Carlos, would somebody really pay that? Yeah, because I've seen it fucking happen. That's a lot more than the market rent. You're right. It is a lot more. I would say this would be an easier sale at 7 to 8%, but some of the bold people that I know that have money because they have a lot of deals already, and stuff so they can support finding the right buyer, they're going to push for 11, 12%. Like I fucking know them. And so that's a high payment difference from what market rent is, you know? The thing is it's out there. It is out there. And here goes a deal that didn't make any sense. Let's go ahead and scroll down, guys. Let's scroll down under so we get to some fresh whiteboarding. I'm going to show you something real quick. On a deal that made no sense, on a deal that our PITI was $1,900. Let's say this is profit. And our market rent was $1,900. We're at $0 of cash flow. We break even, guys. Oh, this doesn't make any money for anybody. But the entry fee is $35,000, Carlos, you know, to get for someone to buy this deal. $35,000. So somebody's going to spend $35,000 and make no fucking money on this? That's not a cash on cash return. Who would buy this? Would there be people out there that would buy it? Yeah, there probably still would be people to buy it. Why, Carlos? There are some people who are further in their careers than we are, right? That will buy on depreciation opportunity. Okay, cool. I'll buy this $253,000 house and I'll get the tax incentives on that. How does that work? Which we'll get into that later. But basically, I think the IRS or whatever the government has figured out, you know, a certain calculation in which you can write off the taxes, write off, you know, depreciate your property. And so you take the purchase price, 253, and you divide that by 27.5 years. 253,000 divided by 27.5, and you're left with $9,200. So though this property breaks even and makes no money, you actually save $9,200 every month. You get to write that off. Where do you get to write stuff off from? Well, if you wholesale a deal, you make a capital gain, correct? Right? It's a flip. It's not a true investment. It's not passive income. It's taxed differently, higher tax bracket. So you sell a deal, $10,000, right? Wholesale fee, get a capital gain. What are you taxed on it? $4,000, $5,000? What do you tax on it, guys? $3,600, $4,000, $4,800 at the end of your business fiscal year? What do you really tax on that? How do some of my friends pay no taxes? Well, there's $9,600 every year you get to write off for 27.5 years, unless you decide to accelerate that process, which you can accelerate it over 5 or 7 years, I believe. But that's more intense. We'll just go off of this. So that wholesale $10,000 you make at the end of the year, you really only make $6,000, so you have to pay the IRS $4,000. Not if you own real estate or businesses, because you're working with the government basically. You're housing their civilians and you're employing their civilians. Therefore, you have better tax incentives. You have all these, they call them loopholes, but you know, obviously the wealthy had created a lot of these strategies in which to help out, right? So this $4,000 you have to pay on that one $10,000 assignment fee, you can actually take that and write that off on your house. You can use that towards your depreciation of that $9,600 that you have on this house. If you own it, though, if you're the one that owns it, not selling it on a wrap. If you wrap it, you're not the owner, you're the note holder. But let's say you just wanted to hold it for just to break even, and because, hey, I'll take the depreciation. Well, you just skipped out on giving the IRS $4,000 out of that $10,000. Let's say you make another $10,000, you have to give another $4,000. You just saved that too. Now you've now wrote off $8,000 out of the $9,600 that you have. You have $1,600 more to write off. That's how people don't pay taxes on some stuff, right? So imagine the more properties you own, higher property values means more depreciation per year. And so that's why when you own businesses, you make a lot more money than one piece of real estate could make you quickly. It just depends too. Obviously, multifamily commercial is different. Big checks, one way is high tax bracket, and then passive income, true investments is a lower bracket. And you can write them off from when like you can write off the capital gains taxes on some of the investments that you have. Pretty cool. I'm not completely all the way in there, but I hope that kind of made sense for some of you guys. But check this out. So this $1,900 payment that you can rent it out for $1,900 breaks even, doesn't make any money, and somebody still has to pay $35,000 to buy this. A lot less people in the pool that will buy this deal. How do I turn around and make this a positive cash flowing deal? I just showed you guys. If the PITI right here, if the PI is $950. And the new PI to this retail buyer that you sold it to at 10% is 2369. Is there a spread? Yeah, damn well right there's a spread. Let's take a look at that. You take 2369, take away 950, and now you're walking away with around $1,400 of actual profit, cash flow, right? And this is for educational purposes, right? More or less, could be anywhere from $800, $900,000 of cash flow plus, depending if we're selling it at 10%, you're asking for 10% down. What if it's like you list it for 290, 280, right? So we're, I'm going off educational purposes, but this property for sure in this condition will be sold for 290, 300, and it will be at the for sure 8 if somebody just wants to get it quickly sold. People who have more money are going to go for 10+%. Why? Because you actually want to charge over market rates on these ones. You're able to go over prime. You want to also, there's inflation and shit too, but all that stuff is you want to be able to, because you're giving somebody the opportunity. If you get approved, homie, those are your rates, or you didn't get approved. So if you want this house, you can work with my financing at these rates. You're more of a risk factor. You did not get approved through a bank, a legitimate bank, another intuition out there, right? Over here, we will finance you. We don't need you don't need good credit. We need to make sure you make the money and you have some money to put down, but you are going to pay that rate. That is going to be the rate. And down the road doesn't mean you can't refi. That's the rate you're going to be paying us for now. So reality is this deal that didn't cash flow long-term rental turned around and made a shitload of money. And here's why. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to show you where you make your money on this. At the end, from 253, when somebody buys this, they give $15,000 down to the homeowner, takes off the purchase price. So what's left? 238. 238 is left. 238 at 2.9% at $950 a month. When you wrap it, you've wrapped it at 270, the finance amount, at 10% at $1,400. So where's the profit from here to here, right? It's $22,000 left. You get the full 10% on this. And now check this out. I'm going to show you something right over here real quick. So you get an equity spread. This is what's being wrapped right here. This is the wraparound mortgage sold in a bundle to this guy. So 10%, you get the full 10% off of 22 because that's equity that you created through the market. It's there too, and through the inflation that you're going to put on the wrap. And then you have $238,000 that isn't yours, that isn't equity. Well, how do you make money on that, Carlos? Well, you're going to make your most money on that, homie, because you only have 22 grand over here. What do you mean, though? I don't own this. You're right. You do not own that. But where do you make your money? Well, you see there's 2.9. I'm going to make 10%. Oh, wait. There's 10% is what's going to be attached to this, even though you're owed 2.9. So what do you make difference, Carlos? What's my difference on this, right? Well, you just take, I make 7.1%. Called a rate wrap. And that's like if you just sold, I don't know, I'll explain it right now. If you could buy a property, let's say we bought it for 238, that was the loans, and we couldn't get anybody to buy it for 300, and it came down to 280 and came down to 250, and we sold it for the fucking loans at 238, but at 10%, you would still make a shitload of your money. Most of your money out of that $1,400 bucks. This is profit. This isn't $1,400, take away $950. No, this is fucking profit right here. This is profit. So right here, most of your profit is coming off of this large chunk, not this chunk. So even if this wasn't here, you'd still make the majority of this fucking money on the same purchase price. If you just sold it for the same value you got it at, the same price you got it at 10%, you would still make like $1,000 every single month on this off the interest with no equity. But there's a little bit of interest right here. So your 22 grand, besides your down payment, this 22 grand turns to, I don't know, 50 grand over the time frame. And then this 238, you obviously make a shitload of money on interest on that. And that right there, guys, is sort of how a wraparound mortgage works. You see now the spread is there. You see now this deal went from breaking even to potentially making 800, 900,000 plus dollars, which for sure will be there. It turns into, well, what happens to the person who put $35,000 into the deal, Carlos? Right? How does it look like a good deal to them that doesn't break even? Well, if you can't see what I see, then obviously this isn't for you either because you don't know the strategy, right? To the end buyer we're talking to. What's the cash on cash return? It's going to be infinite very quickly. How do you know? Well, if you get $30,000 down, you obviously only have $5,000 out of your pocket, Carlos. Oh, yeah. Minus a little bit more because it could take you 3-4 months to get this sold on a wrap, and then you still have that payment of $1,900 every month to make until you get it wrapped. So more or less, there's probably going to be 10 grand in here, right? There's probably going to be $10,000 of your own money that's still left behind in this deal. What's your cash on cash return and your rate of return, right? Like how much money you're making on the money you put in and how fast are you going to get your money out of it? Meaning how many years does it take for me to break even on my money and then make a profit, right? A lot of people, I'd like to be at the 3-year mark, 5-year mark, 3 or 5-year mark, 3 really. Some people are cool, 7 to 10 years, meaning you put 100 grand into a deal, it takes you 7 years just to fucking get your 100 grand out. You haven't made one profit yet. You've been making a return though, but you haven't profited yet. So this right here is going to be an infinite rate. It's going to be an infinite return because you're not going to have much cash. You're not going to have cash in this deal any longer. Like it's going to be out very quickly. Here's why. This $30,000 gets returned into your pocket, so you knock off the majority of what you put in there. Now let's just say there's $5,000 plus the miscellaneous fees. You owe $10,000. What do end buyers like to buy? Like how you look at your cash buyers, and some of them are buying at 70% of market value minus repairs and then your commission. That's the numbers, right? Well, end buyers that buy and hold, they work off of returns, cash on cash returns as well. How much money am I putting in and how much money I get to make every month on this thing? What's my return on this? I know a lot of people are at the 12, 14% will make a deal for somebody. That's a good return. You can't get those returns really in stocks. In your 401k and Bitcoin, you're not getting those returns really. So at 12 and 14%, it's great. When you start getting 15, 18%, those are really good. When you get to 20%, hey, 20% a year, if I get my money to be at 20% rate of return on a cash return, that means, well, $10,000, 20% of $10,000 is what? $2 grand. So that means in 5 years, that would be 10 grand. After 5 years, I no longer have any money in this deal. Now the deal is infinite because I no longer have any money in the deal, but the deal is still making me that money every year. So now it's infinite return. I make all that cash flow. Check this one out. If we're making $1,000 profit every month on this, and you're the note holder, you're not the landlord, so you're not responsible to taxes and insurance, you're not responsible or liable to the property anymore. You don't have to take care of toilets and leaks and none of that shit. You're legitimately not doing shit. If you want to be a landlord, go for it. I actually don't want to be a landlord. So for the strategies that I'm going to be doing, the pad splits, then maybe long-term rentals, there's going to be a manager. Otherwise, I don't want to do that shit. I'd rather do wraps because I don't want to deal with people as far as management and of the assets. Notes, you don't have to manage shit. You just hold the note just like Bank of America. They ain't doing nothing but waiting for the check every month. That's exactly what the fuck we're going to be doing on these things. You also don't own it, so you don't get tax depreciation on the property. Okay, that's one thing that you give up as well. You don't own it, so I don't get the incentives. I'm not the owner holding the note difference on this. So 20% is $2 grand. We're not making $2 grand. If we're making $1,000 a month, times that by 12 months, that's $12,000, right? So this is $1,400. Obviously, it's like $15,000-$16,000 a year in actual profit that you make. Let's check it out. Let's just say, to be conservative, let's just say that we make $1,000 a month. Let's just say that it's just $1,000 a month, not the 1,400, just to make this easier in the math. Somebody's like, hey, I'll buy this at 18%. A lot of people would. Believe me, a lot of people out there would be buying this at 18, 20%. Those returns, like I'm saying, go and look at stocks. They're giving you 7, 8%, 9%. After you pay your broker fees and shit, you're a little bit less. Bitcoin, all of that, it's not paying you double-digit returns like this. So 18 and 20% are very high. People like them. And then obviously, higher they go, obviously, the better the deal. You can charge your assignment fee off of knowing somebody's buy criteria. Somebody's like, hey, I'll buy properties up to 15% of the purchase value, and I also want an 18 to 20% cash on cash return. You can line up their cash on cash return and notice that they're willing to pay 20% of a purchase price. 300 grand, that's 60 G's. And let's say you only have to put 30 out of your pocket. That means you can pack in a nice assignment fee. That's already their criteria, just so you know. But so check this out. At 18 to 20%, just making this $2,000 a year of actual net profit is a deal to a lot of end buyers. Is this going to be a deal? Yeah, it's going to be a great deal. Why? Because in 10 fucking months, this is going to take you 5 years. This is going to take you 5 years just to fucking break even on your 10 grand that's left in this deal. Just to fucking clear yourself out. Not one profit has been made yet, but you got a nice returning asset. And after 5 years, every year moving forward, you're going to make $2,000 on that property, right? And so you add that to your portfolio and try to get another one that can make you that much. And you add a whole bunch, and now you're making a shitload, right? Well, this deal says, hey, dog, in fucking 10 months, you're going to have no more money in this deal. So that means a 10-month fucking rate of return. And moving forward, you have an infinite return of $1,000. Meaning in 12 months, you make 12 G's with no more money in there. Now you have $12,000 coming from this property that you don't do anything to. No asset management. You have no incentives. You don't do shit. But after 10 months, all your money is out of there. Is that a good deal? Yeah, it fucking is a good deal. It is a good deal. I'm going to end this recording, and then we can go into Q&A.